as you know, we have the wonderful Sarita from SJ Coaching in the virtual house today, and she will be breaking down your goals with a focus on action and progress. So, how you can align your vision with yourself and your organization, and what you can do when results happen or don't happen. Sarita has more than 30 years of experience in business across a variety of industries with clients across the globe. Her superpowers are working with people and unlocking their inner genius, both personally and professionally. Sarita combines a blend of business and behavioral proven strategies that will help clients from all walks of life thrive and design a life on their terms. So I hope everyone brought along their goals for 2021, as this is such an incredible opportunity for you to work them out in real time. I've actually brought along my own as well. We also have a little giveaway we have a wonderful giveaway for everyone here, which is access to a unique assessment tool that will provide you with insights into what motivates you, your preferred behavioral style, and what your personal superpowers are. So once again, thank you to everyone for tuning in. Sarita, thank you so much for joining us. We so appreciate it. How's your day going?
Oh, it's fabulous. I'm super excited to be here. In particular, because I've seen you guys over the last 9 months, do so much work for your members, and I just love what you guys stand for. So I'm grateful to be part of this.
Yes, I mean, it's crazy to think that we took everything virtual back in March, and here we are at the end of November. But it's been a wild ride. And I think, potentially a great segue to begin chatting about, why it is so important to set goals. Because back in March, we floundered. We were wondering, how long is this going to last? Is it going to just last the few months that we were hoping? But obviously it lasted a lot longer than that. So why, first and foremost, is it so important to set goals?
Look, I think there's lots of different reasons, and you're absolutely right. And maybe where I would like to start off with is to talk about that since March and where we are at right now. A lot has changed, not only from a goal setting perspective, which is just, I would say, a minor component of it, but our behaviors and our values have also been impacted throughout this time. And I guess if I look at the clients that I work with, the values that were really important to them previously have now completely flipped to even some extent that people are saying, hey, I'm not going to do this anymore. The life that I was living was too fast paced, or whatever your reasoning is. So with that, our goals have changed, and also the communication, whether it's in our business or whether it's in our personal life, has had an impact, and it has had an effect. So how do you navigate through that? And I guess that's why we're so excited to be working with you guys on this session, because there's so many different elements, and I'm aware we've got an hour and there is a lot more to talk about, but I wanted the people that were attending today to walk away with something tangible, because I think we've been doing a lot of talking. Would you agree? There has been amazing, I guess, virtual events up and running for people, access to lots of information. And that's all great, but then how do you make it work for you, right? How do you create it in such a way that it fits with your new rhythm, whatever that might be? And not trying to, it's like putting on those jeans that are just a little bit too tight. I don't know well, I don't think you have, but but I definitely want, like, hey, so certain things are no longer fitting. And I think now is a really good time to slow down so we can speed up and start looking at, okay, and perhaps we haven't got the access of, setting really long-term goals, but you don't necessarily have to do that. But there are 3 components or elements to this. And I was taught this framework by my mentor and coach a few years ago. And I've applied it ever since, because it made so much sense. And that's what we're talking about tonight.
Perfect. Okay, I do have a few more questions just before we get into the nitty gritty.
Yeah.
And you can use me as an example. I'll be the guinea pig. That's fine.
I love that.
Yes.
Very brave.
But you mentioned obviously we're facing an uncertain future, and obviously we can still set goals even though we are facing an uncertain future. But how can we do that not knowing what's going to happen in 3 months? We were seeing it in South Australia at the moment with this new COVID outbreak, the fact that they might have to go back into lockdown. How can we shift our mindset around that to not be in what's the word, in like fight or flight mode?
Fight or flight mode. Yeah, look, and I wish I could give you the answer to that. I
You're
think
an oracle.
I am good, but I'm not a fortune teller. Look, I think one of the things that has really become quite evident is how resilient we actually are.
Yeah.
And it is incredible how we've been adapting. And I know that there's so many people that have been really heavily impacted in very many different industries. But it's when communities come together like yours and what we're talking about today, there are certain things that we can offer, and it might not be what we were used to, or the returns might not be what we were getting previously. But I guess the key or the answer to your question is we can only control ourselves. Okay, so if we can manage ourselves in a way that is congruent to who we are, and we look after ourselves in that way, we have a good chance of actually creating and designing, even though we don't know what the future holds, we can still move forward.
Yeah.
Okay? And it might be little progress versus we have been used to like making, we can fast track our progress if we want to. Anything is possible. And now it's like we've got to play with what we've got. And that is just the reality of it. And for businesses, it means that for some, they've had to really completely shift gears. I've got clients who have had to completely change their business model, and they've succeeded in that, but it's not an easy challenge. So back to your question, I think what we need to focus on is ourselves firstly, and making sure that we self-manage well, that we keep looking after ourselves and the people, and ask for that support to help us navigate through this time.
Yeah.
And by setting goals, that was your initial question, there is something to look forward to, because you and I had that conversation just offline about days flow into days. There is no segregation, so it feels. So by having a goal, you can actually have the sense that you're moving towards something. And it might be something minor, but it's about the progress that we allow ourselves to make.
I think you're absolutely right. And I'd love to know, because we were talking about this earlier, which was we had these goals for 2020 and we were unable to see them through. And we went into fight or flight mode, and everyone has done such an impeccable job of just surviving this year. But now we're at a place where there's a lack of motivation, there's a lack of productivity. And would you say that there is a link between goal setting and productivity and motivation?
Yeah, definitely. It's a little bit that example that I used before, trying those tight jeans on. I think we need to come to terms that the way things were, they probably will never be exactly like that.
Yeah.
So it's either it's a fact. No matter where you're sitting on the fence, even if you've done well this year, there are people around you that have, the ripple effect has been huge. So that is, we need to recognize that. And I think one of the things that I use with my clients is the change curve model, where we go through the different stages and we can see where people are at. But by allowing people to have, and I don't want to use this word lightly, like hope, because that's not what I'm talking about tonight. But when we have goals, we have a sense of purpose. And this is something that has been very much impacted this year. Where do we play? What is our purpose? What does our soul need? What do we need? There's confusion. There is, where do we go? Do we not go? Do we run? Do we walk? What are we actually doing? So by setting a goal, no matter how small or big it is, it just gives us that purpose and intention and focus and some sort of clarity in this, turmoil that we've been finding ourselves in.
Yeah, I think you're right. There has been a mental trepidation but it's not working. So there does have to be something that, you know, we do have to switch things up. We do have to remotivate and become clear again on what exactly we want. However, sometimes we have many goals. Sometimes we have an abundance of goals. In which case, how do you begin to narrow down what you should focus on and what you shouldn't focus on?
Yeah, that's a very good question. And you mentioned before about the giveaway, and I very briefly want to touch on that because it's linked. So when you were talking about motivators, if we know what's important to us, so let's say 6 months ago, something was really important to you that no longer is. Now, if you still have that goal, you're not going to get there because it's completely disconnected, right? So the same thing happens when we can see so much opportunity, because now we might say, hey, you know what, I'm going to change careers, or I'm going to set up a new business. The amount of businesses that have been set up has been phenomenal. But it's then like, okay, so where do I start? Because by having a lot of goals, you can get easily lost, right? And I know I've been guilty of that. Like in my mind, I can do so much more than in reality. So a very good place to start is to get everything out of your head and breaking it and looking at it and say, okay, what is this linked with one another? Where does this fit in? What do we look at?
So literally just writing it down on a sheet of paper.
Out of your head.
Perfect.
Your head is the busiest place on earth. And you can talk yourself into stuff and you can talk yourself out of stuff very easily. And that is perhaps where we can start, that, you know, the key ingredients for being successful with attaining your goals, it does start in your mind, however cliche it sounds, because we can, you know, depending on what we've got in there, if we don't put it out on paper, and writing things down is such a intentional process, and it creates so much clarity. And, you know, really making sure that you're connected to why you're doing stuff.
Yeah.
Again, 6 months ago, you were doing things that you might not want to do right now. So.
Or aren't possible.
Or isn't possible.
Unfortunately.
It's not, you know, I mean, for me, it's been traveling that I've got clients that I'm not traveling anymore. So it's only a minor thing, but it was a very big part of my life.
Yeah.
So what do I do now? We do this, right? We do the virtual stuff. Yeah.
Yeah, and figuring out what you can do to fill in those gaps.
Absolutely.
And then fulfill whatever it is that you need fulfilled. Okay, well, I would love then to, once again, use me as a bit of a guinea pig.
Yes.
So obviously, as I said, I'm the event coordinator for Victory Offices, and we took everything virtual back in March.
Yeah.
But because we've all been good little boys and girls and we stayed home, we are slowly opening back up. Restrictions are easing, you know, things are looking more positive than what they were in terms of bringing people back for celebrations, bringing people back in for conferences, seminars, in-person learning sessions, work events, etc., etc., etc. And for me, I'm kind of treading this interesting line where we've created this incredible virtual network of people. We have amazing content, but I'm also just absolutely dying to get back into in-person events. And I would love to have, you know, at least a minimum of 3 to 4 events per location. And for each of those events to be bringing in new clientele. Really with a focus on bringing in new blood, new people, new faces, ideas, etc. So that's my goal for 2021. It's a big one.
It's a great, and thank you for giving me such an easy goal to work with as well.
Are you kidding? An easy goal during COVID. Let's talk about events.
No, look, I think it's so maybe we address it like this. Okay, so I don't know whether there's any questions of other people that have got goals as well that they want to work through, but the first thing I want to do is for everybody that's listening now to just take a little bit of time out, and the starting point where I want to get us to begin is to do a little bit of self-reflection. So there's 3 questions I would like you to ask yourself. If you look back, reflecting back on this year, And completely in all honesty, you don't have to share it with us, but I just want you to take the time to do this. It takes 2 minutes. So
Okay.
what went really well this year?
Mm-hmm.
What didn't go so great?
Yeah.
And what would you like to do differently or better this year?
Okay. Do you want me to answer them?
If you want to, that'd be great.
Sure, of course.
So for the listeners, if they can just write it down
Yeah.
themselves, because we will go through the steps now in the framework that will help you to get it all out there.
Absolutely. Okay. So I'm going to say number one, what did we do well? What did I do well? Well, I think what was really great, and this was also because of a wonderful team, Wendy, who's in on the call as well, remained really positive. I think it could have been really easy, and there was a lot of negative chit chat around. It could have really been easy to listen to that. But I think we made a really conscious as a team effort to remain positive. And that was great. And I honestly, I'm not a particularly woo-woo person, but that I think got me through a big chunk of this situation, especially in the beginning. What could be done differently was maybe having a little bit more forethought at the beginning, because obviously we were like, this is a band-aid, right? We're not going into surgery. This is just a scratch. But little did we know, false.
Yes.
So I think some pre-planning in the beginning to make things a little, so we had to do less thinking on our feet throughout the process, would have been good. And then what was the third one?
So the second one was what didn't go so great.
And that was it.
That was it. Okay.
I think we could have pre-planned in the beginning a little bit better.
Yeah.
Because we didn't realize that, oh shoot, this is going to be the majority of the year. We thought it was just going to be like a few weeks.
Yeah.
So that pre-planning.
The third one is what would you like to do differently or better?
Differently or better? I think with these beautiful communities that we have created by these virtual events, and also, of course, the already existing communities that we created previously to this via our live events, I would love to create more of a network and community with those people, so they can help each other as well as, obviously being a part of the Victory community.
Yeah. Great. And that's a really good way of doing it. And the reason why I get people to do the self-reflection.
I didn't even sorry, Sarita, but literally penny drop. Yes. That has made things really clear.
Awesome, because that is what we're looking for. That's what we are really finding tricky to have access to, is that level of clarity. So if there is uncertainty, where do we get the clarity from? And, you might be thinking, who are you to tell me that I can have clarity? But there are things that we can do. And it is, where do we put our focus? Where do we have our attention? Where's the balance? And that then looks at where's the clarity. And that's what this will do, this framework that I'll be sharing with you guys, because it allows you to just take stock. Even in times of adversity, there are some really weird silver linings in this that if we look for them, we can find them. One of my favorite sayings is energy flows where attention goes. So if we focus all that is not, then we will get a lot of that what is not. And again, I'm not down talking what is going on, but I just want to create an opportunity for people to say, hey, you know what, I'm going to try that on, because it might actually give me a different view, or I can see things through a different lens. This is not me preaching and saying, oh, you have to do it this way and then you'll be fine.
No, absolutely.
It's just an opportunity to, have a play, be experimental. I think that's what's being asked of us at the moment, of what else can we do? Where else can we go? What are the things that we've got that we didn't maybe see that we had available? and tapping into your communities. Like, I think the biggest thing we've learned is asking for help, which lots of people have found very tricky in the past, because we were all doing well and now we are all in a different space. Absolutely. So self-reflection, really, really great little tool for us to just take stock.
So I hope everyone wrote those questions down.
Yes,
and if you didn't answer them now, answer them later tonight.
Yeah, absolutely. If you've done them now, perfect, because that will then move you into the next bit.
Yeah.
If I can just one more thing on that self-reflection. So you and I were talking before about this, everything blending into one, and how do we, separate it, in particular when we're still working from home. And one of the things I teach my clients is to do not just the self-reflection, but a daily self-reflection.
Yeah.
And they're the same 3 questions, what went well, what didn't go well, what can we do better tomorrow? And what it allows us to do is to actually close off our day. Okay? Because it is easy to go back to our computer. So it's about being disciplined within ourselves and going like, once I've done that little ritual, whatever you want to call it, then my day is closed off and I can actually look back and say, yeah, I actually did have a good day, or this is what I'm going to look at differently tomorrow.
Yeah. No, I love that. And we did talk about this before everyone came online, and we're just talking about how it kind of further clarifies your time and allows you to be productive in these sections of life. And with working from home, those sections of life have really just become one huge, I don't know, like
it's all,
blob of life.
Yeah, it's like a blob.
Exactly. A blob of life. There you go. Wow.
Yeah, well, maybe we can manage it a little bit differently.
Yeah.
We don't have to put up with that maybe as much as we need to. So that is the starting point. Then I guess, shall we jump into the goal setting and what it looks like?
Absolutely.
Do you have any questions? Are there any questions that we need to?
Yeah, please, everybody, chuck them in the chat box, the Q&A box, raise a hand. If you have anything you'd like to add, or if you have your own goal as well, we'll absolutely get around to it. We don't have to use me as an example.
No, I liked it. Well,
although I am getting a lot out of this, so
you might as well get the benefit from it. Okay, so there are 3 steps, and I had a slide picked up, but I think let's just do a conversation. I really enjoy what we're doing. So there is the first bit we talked about was a self-reflection. So that is like the leading. Okay.
Yeah.
Now, with goal setting, and maybe people can leave some comments on, how successful are you with goal setting? And this is not a trick question, but it is just for you to, again, have that level of self-awareness. Yeah. Because what we're going to look at is, I guess, there's 3 steps to making your goals work for you and achieving them. Yeah. And I wanted to have a quick chat about why they don't actually eventuate and how you can make them eventuate after we've done the framework. So the first question, again, something for you to write down and just play with is, what do you need?
Okay.
Yeah. So this is really from a soul perspective. What does my soul need? How do I need to connect to what it is? So, for instance, if you said to me, I want to create a business that is $1 million, worth in revenue, and you have taken on that view because you know someone that is doing that and it looks really interesting, but you're not connected to it, that's not within your values. And that is for those of you who are staying until the end, you will get access to the tool. We will actually look at stuff like that.
Yeah.
So what is important to you? And it's funny enough, in business and in our personal lives, we don't spend a lot of time looking at that. Where we generally go to is we go to the goal setting. Okay, we've got a goal, let's do it. And often it's quite abstract. It might be like, I want to make more money. And I go, great. And yeah, so why? Oh, because I just really would like to be financially free.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then kind of questioning until you get to
right. So because we come from it from an abstract place. So when we say things like, and this is the mindset, right? Our unconscious mind goes like, oh, more money, great, I'll find you more money. Then you go outside and you find $50. Now you've got more money. Have you now reached your goal?
Right.
Yeah.
Your goal has to be bigger than that, doesn't it?
Well, you've got to be specific, because now you have more money, but is that the amount of money that you wanted more of?
Gotcha. Okay.
Yeah. So it's abstract. It is not then broken down into the steps. And so when we start looking at what our soul needs and how relevant that is to us, how connected we are, that's the first step. So what do you need? That's the first thing we need to look into.
Okay.
And that could be a little bit challenging, because very often, in particular now as things have changed, it's a really tough question.
Yeah. And I think we've also had to, even on top of that, reevaluate our needs. You know, what we maybe thought was important before isn't so important anymore.
In recent studies, what through the assessment tool that I use, what we have found is that even in people's behavioural styles, there's been a big shift. So people that were quite risk adverse, people that were quite like out there, fast paced, you know, making quick decisions, they've shifted into this mode of, we want to stabilize, we want to be sure, we want certainty, we want, how do we do this? So those two elements in itself have a huge impact on how we then make decisions.
Yeah.
So we've got to go to that granular level of understanding what we need first. Okay, so that's step number one. So hopefully you've been writing it down. What do you need? So shall we use you as the example, because you've got
absolutely,
you know, let's use that goal that you were talking about before. So what do you need from your perspective?
Okay. What do I need from my perspective? And this is like a personal, what do I need?
Yeah, from a soul level.
From a soul level, in terms of the events that I'm putting on at Victory.
Yep.
Oh my God, this is such a vulnerable question.
Wow.
I mean, I feel like it's the wrong answer. But I suppose I feel like I need to create successful events in order to feel like I'm doing a really good job and to have my peers like me. Probably why I went into party planning.
Yeah.
But I guess it also, like, it really comes back to community, which is what I've been missing this year, especially. So I guess from a soul level, I think it has to do with creating community.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Great. So for you, for those of you that are watching, you could see the process, right? It's like, whoa, that is, you know, it makes sense. Like from a cognitive level, we make sense out of it. And then when we have to go internal, like we really, you know, the mindset is going, where do we go with this one? And it's like tapping into that. So for you, you've got a real sense around that community. So that's why that is important to you at a soul level, right? And even at a professional level.
Yeah.
So the next step that we then look at, so we've got soul, now we're going to have a look at the role.
Okay.
And the role is about what—
You're making me nervous, Sarita.
Don't be nervous. You're in safe hands. And I think, you know, this is such a beautiful conversation that we're having. And I love how we're doing this, and not just me telling and talking and this is how you do it. But it is you connecting through that. It's those stages of when we get to the, you know, the juicy bits. So from a role perspective, what is the role that you want to play in terms of business, in terms of your personal? What's your purpose? What is your why?
I mean, this is so interesting, because even this evening, because I was thinking about it, I was like, what? I mean, it's even making me question why I got into events in the first place. But it's even this evening, like, I'm having people come over to decorate the Christmas tree, but I love playing the host. I love being the person that gets to orchestrate Wendy's teasing me in the chat. Yes, thank you, Wendy. You got this. She goes, "Lol, don't worry." She said originally, "I'm listening, no pressure." And then I said, "Oh gosh, Wendy," and she said, "Don't worry, ... it's being recorded." Excellent. Yes, so I think that's the role that I want to play, I guess, is the host.
Yeah.
If I was to think of a title. Yeah.
It's not about the title, but it's like, and this is what I want everybody to see what is unfolding here, right? So we've got the soul, so it's connected to you. That is what's important to you. The role that you want to play connects back to the soul, right? Yeah. So they are in balance. Okay. So now what we can do is done well. So now what we can do is now we can work out what the goal is. Okay. Now, the thing is that when we don't have those two elements in balance, the goal will be something that, you know, you put out there, and because we're not connected to it, it's more than likely not going to happen. Yeah. Yeah. And if we look at our businesses, we can see this quite often because we haven't got either the disciplines or we haven't got the frameworks in place, whatever the case might be. Yeah. But it might be someone else's goals that we're chasing. It might be that we haven't considered what is involved to actually get there, because we are very good at overestimating what we can do in a particular amount of time. Yes. And, you know, and I know many of us have heard of the SMART principle, and I want to get away from that one a little bit, but it is about, can we measure it, and is it realistic, what we're setting ourselves out to do? And in particular, in this environment that we're finding ourselves in, the things that we might have been able to do previously, that might not be so achievable right now, but it doesn't mean it can't get done. Yeah. Yeah. So.
But it is important to have those two pieces.
Absolutely.
Match.
Yeah, absolutely.
Right. Which is why you have to do this work immediately. Should be the work that you do.
Exactly.
You begin on any path.
Yeah, absolutely. Okay. So then we go to the goal. Okay. So let's have a look at your goal.
Yes. So my goal, just to reiterate, is to create a community, to create more of a community out of the communities that we already have, to bring both the virtual and in-person communities together and create a real network, an organism that works together. I think that's one of the beautiful things, that's one of the beautiful attributes of serviced officers. But then, we have this opportunity to take it to the next level because we also have these social settings as well throughout Melbourne. And yeah, I would just love to see them come together more. It's funny to me when they don't know each other, they don't know that this location exists, or they don't know that this event is happening. Because I know our marketing team do a wonderful job, but I think, it really does require that community aspect and word of mouth and communication.
Okay. So how are you going to do that?
It's a great question.
Look, and I just for people that are listening, this is not a setup. We haven't rehearsed this.
We haven't. But I don't think anyone thinks that, considering my answers and the fact that I'm like sweating with nerves. No.
You're doing a great job. I'm very, very impressed. And this is, I guess, that we have to deal with, because what I mentioned before about the abstract vision of our goals. So there's a lot of really cool stuff that we can do in this space, and we've got good time to actually work through it. So you're talking about, can you say one more time what it is that you want to achieve?
Create a network of people, a really cohesive community where everyone can pull from the pool of intellect and talent.
Awesome. All right. So that is quite abstract. Yeah. Okay. So the vision is really out there. Yes. But that is the end goal that we're talking about.
Yes.
Okay. So, and we'll do a little exercise as well if we have left over. So that's the end goal. What we need to do next is we now need to work backwards. Okay. So we start to get very granular with what that goal looks like. Yeah. So it's that community. It's where people are tapping into each other's networks, growing each other's businesses. It's beautiful. It's all very organic. But now how do we get there?
Right. Okay.
Okay.
Well,
So let's work out the steps so you can be absolutely, and Wendy's listening, so
Wendy is
you can-
listening. Wendy, if you want to chime in, if you want to help a girl out.
Oh, it's awesome. Okay.
Yeah. So repeat the question. So we're basically working back from this big goal that feels a little ephemeral almost.
Yeah.
And we're going to put in some more, we're going to work back from this goal, and we're going to understanding what my soul goal is, I guess.
Yes.
And also why I'm doing what I'm doing. So I've answered those questions. Now I have this big goal that I'm working toward. We're going to work back and put in place some cement steps.
Absolutely.
Okay.
And with those steps, we can then create the action plan.
Yes.
Okay. And we can put in some, I guess, measures to ensure that and this is the thing that we sometimes find ourselves in, we get disillusioned. So it's all about the timing and the support and how we're going to get it actually done. So let's look at your end goal that you've just given us. By when do you want to achieve that? What's the date?
Mid-year,
Whatever comes
end of
up.
financial year 2021.
So it's the 1st of July 2021.
Yes. Wendy's just said 20th of November 2020. Thank you, Wendy.
Very funny. Okay, so the 1st of July 2021. Yes?
Yes.
Okay, awesome. All right. And today is the 19th of November. Okay. So now talk me through the things that will need to happen.
Okay. So we have the end of this year. We have a few more virtual events, and then we're taking a break. And then as of January, we, for anyone listening, are bringing back live events to Victory, which is so unbelievably exciting.
Yep.
That will be happening around mid-January.
Okay.
However, we will still be keeping up with this leg of events, so virtual events. So we're going to be doing both, because what's really been quite beautiful about this experience is that we now understand that there are people for who in-person events don't work.
Yep.
At 5:30 p.m. on Thursday or Friday.
Yep.
Because they've got families, because they've got obligations, because they've got volleyball, whatever it may be, because they're tired after work. They're an introvert and they only have so much energy that they can give in the day, whatever it may be. So I think virtual events are going to be a leg of the events department at Victory, hopefully forever. With that being said, I think with our in-person events, I would really like to see more of like a networking component, because I feel like we've really created a great educational space with virtual events. And now with our in-person events, we don't necessarily have to facilitate that as much. These can be more networking events, connection events, and potentially, really niching out these nights. If they're a networking event, maybe it's networking events for people in finance. Maybe it's, females in politics, maybe whatever it may be. Wow, these are great ideas. I literally hope everyone is doing this.
I'm going to bring you back in, because this is what we just started talking about. There's many goals.
Yes.
Oh,
right. Gosh. Okay, right. So
okay.
reel me back in,
I'm just going to bring you back in. So we are looking at, these are the things we're looking for. We're looking at quantifying, we're looking at putting a time on it, and we're looking at how we are going to then achieve it. Okay. So the live events are coming back. So that's one part. Then there is virtual events. So if you looked at your end goal, when will you know that you have created that community where there is that organic? How will you know that you've achieved that?
What are the numbers? This is
yes.
For a creative brained person, the numbers are important, because they keep you, on track. Yes. I suppose I would love to see 4 in-person events.
Yep.
A month.
Yep.
at least for first quarter.
Mm-hmm.
The same number of virtual events.
Yeah, first quarter. Yeah,
first quarter.
Yeah.
And I would love for those events to also, okay, I would we have a beautiful mailing list. We have so many wonderful people, but I guess in that first quarter, is this crazy to ask, but I would love 500 more subscribers.
Awesome.
I don't know if that marketing might be like, that's a big number, that's a low number. I don't know exactly. Once again, the creative brain.
Yeah. Hey, we can always go up.
We can reanalyze. We can reanalyze at a later date. Right? But let's say 1,000. I'm going to say 1,000 because
okay, great.
We'll also let everybody know this beautifully V library that we've created for our virtual events will be subscription soon. You don't have to pay anything. It's basically just you subscribe and you get access to everything. So
awesome. So we've now got a bit of flat bone around
numbers.
Bone, right? Because we're going from 1st of July 2021. We've got this, goal of community networking, people doing stuff together. Okay. So let's just focus on the first quarter. Okay. So you've got some numbers now. So the next step is then, if you were to create a 30, 60, 90-day plan, what would be the activities that you will be having to do to get those numbers filled?
Yes. I guess.
Sorry to interrupt. For everybody that's listening, these are the next steps. Okay. Yes. So just a quick recap. We've got soul, we've got the role, we now have the end goal. And what we're doing is we're working backwards. And we've got some numbers. So we've got some idea of what we would like to achieve. But the next step to actually put it into action is breaking it down in what do we actually need to do to make this happen.
Yes. Okay. I'll do 3 examples of what will have to happen.
Awesome.
So first of all, we have to put together an incredible calendar of events, both virtual and in person. The way that we usually do that at Victory is we find people like yourself, Sarita, that we think are incredible sources of information, resources of information, and deserve a platform in which to educate people. Next, I think that we have created all this beautiful content, which we were so generous with and will continue to be incredibly generous with. But in the hope of creating more of a community and a network, I would like to, ask people to give over some of their personal information so that, we can keep up to date with what they're interested in. We can make sure that the content that they're getting is answering the questions that they actually have, is getting to the root of their problems, and I'm really niching out the kind of content that our audience wants and needs. And also then, being able to bring you guys together to help each other as well. And number 3, I actually, really like the idea of niching out some networking events. And I think for me, when I enter a networking event and it's a more broad topic, it can be quite intimidating. So having more niched networking events that are really structured toward a particular industry would really help kind of eliminate a lot of that stress that you might initially have walking into a room full of strangers.
Okay, awesome. Yeah. So we've basically now created some
to-do list.
Yeah, a to-do list, but we also created almost like the segregation of the products that you have in Victory. Yeah. So there's a very clear, I guess, there's
quite naturally too. Sorry.
Yeah, absolutely. So now you've got, so you've got let's say 3 products that you are wanting to market in that first quarter. The action plan now needs to be put together in that 30, 60, 90 day. And it's very easy. You can do this in many different ways. I like to just draw it and go like, okay, I'm filling things up, or sticky note it and go like, okay, I can move things around in order. And the next level, I guess, of making this all come to life is, who do I need? who do I need to come and help me with this?
Okay.
Because often with goal setting, we go into, I need to do this all by myself, whether it's in business or in your professional life. And it's about knowing what to ask for and who to ask to help you create this.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Interesting. I already know who those people are. They help me every day.
I have to share that.
Hi, Wendy.
But I guess this is in a very short amount of time that we're having together. Does it make sense to have a sequence? Like, imagine if you just would have gone straight to the goal and you would have just gone, okay,
overwhelmed immediately. Yeah.
I'm here for you, Wendy saying. I'm not sure whether she's saying I'm here for you, for me, or for you.
Both of us.
For both of us. But again, it's about, if you've got certain steps in place, then you can actually look forward. And it's easier to tweak, because if we have, I guess, this whole mountain of great ideas and visions and anything else, then how is this going to be achievable? How are you going to keep track of it? How are you going to measure the output and not get disheartened? And, this is what often happens. We don't get there quick enough or fast enough, and then we go like, oh, well, maybe it's too hard. So we reduce it.
Yeah.
Reduce our goal. No, let's make it really big.
Okay. Yeah, absolutely.
You went from 500 to 1,000, like within a heartbeat. You didn't even think
marketing. They're like, why did you do that?
Exactly, Wendy. Let's bring them back. There are, there's other ways of doing it. And it might be more at a community level than what we've done previously.
Yeah.
And I guess that's the other thing that the change has given us, that we are realizing we don't have to do it all by ourselves.
You're exactly right. Yeah.
It takes a tribe to raise a child. It takes, a tribe to build a business. We need each other.
Yeah.
But we need to be clear on what we need to ask for.
I agree. That's so beautifully said. And I don't know, it's interesting. I feel like this might be slightly off topic, but do you think that people are going to have a hard time being able to do that, being so out of practice in terms of being able to kind of communicate needs because we've been in isolation for so long? Or do you think it's going to be the opposite?
I just feel that there is such a new beginning, that it's going to be a little bit of accepting that whatever it comes out as is how it needs to come as.
Yeah.
That sounds a little bit woohoo, I get that, but it is, I think if we've learned anything, is that certainty is not a commodity. It's not something we can just pick off the shelf and say, now we're going to be in certainty and we are untouchables. I think that's been definitely flipped on its head, because we have been very touched by many different events that have occurred. I guess we've got an opportunity to do something different and show up differently. And that's why I guess I wanted to offer the tool to your community, to have people actually have a snapshot of themselves and understand where the changes have taken place, and that it doesn't have to be a bad thing. It could actually be a really beautiful thing and a new opportunity for doing business and doing life in general.
Yeah, definitely. Okay, I'm aware of the time. If anyone has any questions, please pop them in the chat. Please pop them in the Q&A. I'm so sorry. I feel like I've taken up so much time, but this is amazing. And I will send through these kind of steps in the follow-up email, because they're so important, but you'll also get this incredible, giveaway that Sarita's so generously offering you guys. So you will have the opportunity to work this out yourself as well. And with Sarita, if you'd like to. But whilst people are popping their questions, if they have them, can you let us know where we can find you? Can you let us know, what you've got going on at the moment? Plug away, basically.
Okay. Amazing. So I guess the thing that I would love to, as I mentioned, offer is the assessment tool, but you can find me on my website, which is at sjcoaching.com.au. I'm quite active on Instagram, so I put up quite a bit of stories. I'm also, and I hope that's okay, I'm an international radio host. So I have a weekly show called Build Your Core, where you can come and listen to, in particular, I specialize in people and communication. So we talk all things people and how behaviors have changed and what you can do to really tap into that and use it to your advantage. So that's every Thursday at 10 a.m. On ibgr.network. So that's a little plug.
Amazing. That's incredible. I didn't realize that, funnily enough. Okay. So 10 a.m.?
10 a.m. to 11 a.m.
Thursday.
Oh, thank you, Wendy. And it is, there's a huge, it's like what you guys are doing, creating those communities and giving people access to further growth and further learning. And yes, just, I would love to connect with people if they're finding themselves a little bit, not lost, but not sure on what the next steps are. Yeah. If you do want to take the assessment, great. What we will do is we will have a group debrief once everybody has completed it. And that will really give you what I've done with you today. We can really work through those steps and go like, okay, hey, there's a blind spot here, or, you know, this is, you're really good at this, because it will also give you your, we all have 77 natural talents and skills, that what you're really good at. Are you playing at your strengths, or are you sort of dabbling in, you know, something that is not right for you?
Which is where that comparison piece comes into play, you know?
Absolutely.
We have to keep coming back to that sole purpose.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Wonderful. All right. Well, thank you so much, Sarita. Thank you guys for tuning in. Sorry that everyone had to listen to me ramble, but I mean, I got so much out of it. I hope you did too. I hope you answered all those questions along with me. And if you did, please let me know. You can always get in contact with me. I'm events@victoryoffices.com.au, and I love hearing from all of our attendees. Thank you so much, Sarita. Thank you, Wendy, for all your wonderful and hysterical comments.
It's been great.
It's been great. All right, guys, have a wonderful evening.